Greetings, mental health community. Hello, I'm Craig Bayer. I'm a member of Fountain House and the founder and editor-in-chief of the Roar Journal. Roar is an international Clubhouse publication dedicated to the promotion of the Clubhouse movement. For me, Roar is the fulfillment of a lifelong dream to create an international literary publication. One day it occurred to me that if I dedicated my world publication to the Clubhouse movement, I could create something unique and valuable, and if I approached Fountain House with my idea, they might support it. I told the powers that be at Fountain House that I wanted to create the New Yorker or the Atlantic of the Clubhouse movement, and I was greeted with immediate enthusiasm by Fountain House Executive Director Elliot Madison and other Fountain House administrators, as well as staff and members. Soon we were debating what the name, the content, and editorial policies of the new publication would be, and the rest is history. Now we have a memory-created product that will hopefully influence people inside and outside the Clubhouse world. In today's webinar, we will discuss in both live and taped segments what impact Roar and its contents can have on mental health treatment, and we'll also talk a little bit more about how and why Roar was created. But first, I would like to inform you about the person to whom our first issue is dedicated. The first issue of the Roar Journal we dedicate to a Clubhouse activist, the late Denise Haast. Denise was at first a member of the Genesis Club in Worcester, Mass., and later a member of New York's Fountain House. She also worked for a time at Clubhouse International. The title of our journal, Roar, is inspired by a group of members that Denise had been organizing before her untimely death. The group was created to increase member attendance at clubhouses and to strengthen member voices in the Clubhouse world. So thank you, Denise, for all your work on behalf of the Clubhouse movement. And now let's view our taped roundtable discussion. Well, I want to welcome all of you who are watching to today's roundtable discussion. The discussion will be with Dr. Alan Doyle, Dr. Francesca Pernice, and a distinguished member of the Oslo Clubhouse, David Malatesta. We're going to be discussing their contributions to the Roar Journal and basically their insights into the Clubhouse movement. So, David, my question is, what inspired you to contribute to Roar?
I didn't know what Roar was at the time, so I thought about it long and hard and had a discussion with you. And then I thought, well, you know, I had made this speech at the World Seminar in Detroit, and I thought maybe that might be something you could use.
I have a quote from David from his piece in the journal, and the quote is the following: "There is the stigma that forces us to withdraw from those close to us, drop out of our social networks, and hide from our work colleagues. And then there is the pain from the noise we are forced to endure, which is the deafening silence of isolation, trapped in a living, lonesome nightmare." Now, that's a major theme in mental health issues of the day, the issue of loneliness and isolation. So I want to ask David, how has mental illness brought about your personal isolation? And how has the Clubhouse helped you battle this?
Coming into the Clubhouse is like coming into a big family, and you can trust the people around you and just not have to worry about what your actual illness is. It's a focus on what you can do. I think the Clubhouse it's not for everybody, and I think we're also very lucky in the Clubhouse. Although there's over 300 and more than 200 accredited, if you look at it from a world perspective, it's only a very small number of people suffering from mental illness that have the actual opportunity to come into a Clubhouse. And I think we're really, really fortunate in the sense that you feel that you are actually making a contribution when you take part in meaningful work.
Craig, I just wanted to ask a question of David.
Oh, certainly.
But I wanted to go back to your first observation about hiding. And could you talk a little bit about the fact that once you went to the Clubhouse and then you became involved in international training, did you also have this issue of hiding still with you somehow? Because for the most part, when you're doing training, you're pretty open about the issue of mental illness and your personal issues. So it doesn't seem like you're hiding, but does that still affect you?
Yes, it does actually, and I've said, it's like in the article that I wrote, I do say out in the outside world, I'm somebody who suffers from mental illness and judged as such, that stigma. But in the clubhouse world, I'm in a safe environment, and it's still something that I'm actually working with. Although I've come a long way since when I first joined the clubhouse.
All right, the next interviewee is Dr. Alan Doyle. He was a former director of training at Fountain House for many years, very dedicated and distinguished leader in the movement. He wrote an article for the journal entitled Origin of the Term Social Practice, and I'm going to extract a couple of lines from that article. The lines being the following. I first came to realize that Fountain House needed a new way to describe its approach to working with people suffering from mental illness from a student who was completing her practicum at Fountain House for a master's degree in social work. I can still recall the morning she arrived for work, confused over the public humiliation she faced from the class the previous night and the ridicule that she encountered in relating the activities she engaged in at Fountain House. My question to you, Alan, is this what prompted you to not only write the article, but perhaps the book you wrote about Fountain House?
Craig, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak about the work that I have done at Fountain House, not only concerning this article, but even the broader view of what was the basis of the article, the book that Ken and Julie that we wrote called Fountain House, trying to answer the question, what is Fountain House? When I came in, I had a lot of questions about what Fountain House was all about and how it worked and why it was so successful. So actually from the very beginning in 2000, when I first started to work at Fountain House, I had this question in whatever I was doing. So what's behind all this? What am I doing and why am I doing it? It started me on this quest to find out, well, maybe the answer to what is Fountain House is to figure out, well, what did John Beard think Fountain House was? What we discovered was that he was really influenced by a group of people at that time who were involved in what was called milieu therapy. But essentially it said that what was really important in terms of the recovery of individuals with mental illness was the environment, the social environment in which they're situated. So it really changed how I thought about this quest I had. What is a Fountain House? 2005 or 2006, I invited a group of people from all over the world to come to Fountain House for a symposium on the foundations of what I call the structural foundations of Fountain House. One of the researchers who was there, she was actually a Dutch researcher who had done some photograph filming of work order day activities in 2 clubhouses in Denmark. And she said, you're going about this the wrong way. Alan, what you have to do is stop thinking that there's a model out there that you have to pattern yourself off of. Fountain House isn't about the past and these models. Fountain House is about the future. Fountain House is creating the model. When I heard that, it just changed the way I thought about this question, this quest that I had. And it radically altered the entire landscape of writing the book, because I started with the proposition that this is an innovation, that Fountain House is creating some new type of social work, and that we're going to have to invent new language to understand what we're doing. Activities don't exist unless you can give them a name. And it's from that basis, from that attitude, that we came across that I introduced the word social practice, which has become the theme here. And, I'm really happy that I'm joined in this panel today by Francesca, because she has really helped me think through the answer here. That if I was writing the book again, I think the chapter would be called a place where members matter. It's a whole different way of thinking about the answer to the question, what is Fountain House? Fountain House is a place in society where members matter.
Well, our next interviewee is Dr. Francesca Pernice of Wayne State University. She submitted an article about defining social practice, and I took an excerpt of it, which I'm going to ask Francesca about. The following is the excerpt. It says, the elements of social practice are predicated on the community setting. That is, it is based on using the community and the transformative relationships within that community to draw out those of us who seek to withdraw given negative symptoms often associated with psychosis. So the question I have for Francesca about this piece is, what makes the Clubhouse community a catalyst in member recovery?
So what makes Clubhouse community a catalyst in member recovery? And I think ultimately jumping on what Alan said and what David said, and given that we're here in community right now, it is the sense of community. It is the notion that we all have this need to matter. It is the sense that we often don't want to be alone with our stress, and being able to have a place, as Alan had described, a place where members matter, where people matter, where you're missed if you're not there. And essentially, as we think about why community, it has given me great pause to really reflect on what about the Clubhouse environment really speaks to community. And it creates a very normative experience for all of us. I mean, I've been hanging out with everyone now for over 20 years. And I can't imagine my life not having been part of this movement or this Clubhouse. And I thought about it, and it's really the relationships and how in this environment we speak to the best side of each person. And that allows us to really form a new kind of relationship that is based in liberation and freedom. But we're coming together in this reality of an interconnectedness that must be a lived experience. And that, I think, is community in the Clubhouse.
Excellent. How important do you think research is going to be to the Clubhouse movement?
Research provides us a voice. It gives members a voice. It gives the community a voice to say, we're here, we're present, we're effective, we're not going anywhere. And we have evidence to support what we do. And I've just been so incredibly humbled and grateful for creating a research group at the university of new and vibrant young minds who have really wanted to contribute to this model and the innovations. So it's vital.
I want to thank all the interviewees for answering these individual questions. And now we're going to open it up to an open forum to discuss ROAR and whatever commentary you have about the journal or its mission.
Well, could I ask you a question, Craig?
Certainly.
Or others here on this panel, you know, what was sort of your motivation to start this journal?
My motivation was basically, it started as a selfish motivation. I always wanted to create an international literary journal. And, you know, I knew that there was a lot of competition out there, but then one day I realized while working at Fountain House that I could produce a literary journal that had its own individual niche, something that had practical value to people. And so I decided that maybe the literary journal should be based on the Clubhouse movement, promoting the Clubhouse movement. And so I basically brought my idea to various individuals at Fountain House and in the administration and this Center for Leadership and Education. and I also discussed it with some members, and we got together and we decided that this journal was something worth pursuing. And basically, the rest is history. I'm very proud and honored that that Fountain House has backed this project. It's a member-driven project. That which makes Fountain House and the Clubhouse movement special. That people in our category can launch an innovative and important project without being put down for being irrelevant to society. Why did all of you contribute to the Roar Journal?
I felt compelled to. I think it was an opportunity to work with Judy and Lisa and yourself, Craig, and the team. And I felt that we really needed to put out sort of the new language, as Alan had talked about, and really start to describe social practice and give the work that's been going on the integrity and the space it deserved to be introduced. So
we definitely value your contribution. It was an important contribution.
So, I wanted to contribute because I felt that the enterprise that you were undertaking in publishing, I just wanted to support it, and particularly because it was being the one who was driving this was a member, and I would just like to recall why Roar meant so much to me and to Denise, because I can remember the day that Denise and we were at a conference in Washington, D.C., a Clubhouse conference. And at the end, we asked for a group who wanted to gather together because that we were had this project and we had come upon this idea of Roar. And people asked me, why Roar? I'm not talking about the magazine now. I'm talking about the prototype of Roar, and at the time, Denise had been laid off from Clubhouse International. She came to Fountain House. Ken asked me if I would integrate her with, let her join the club, the training, and I was astounded. This would be wonderful because I knew all the contacts that she had worldwide. We really felt very strongly that the voice might be lost in the movement, and that we wanted to create something. And we started with Raise Our Voice, and then I just said, well, let's roar. In other words, wasn't an acronym. People were trying to figure out, well, what's it mean? What's the phrase? It didn't mean anything. It meant what it sounded like. We wanted to raise the voice of members in all activities that we do.
And I think it's wonderful that you are asking for the whole Clubhouse community around the world to contribute, and to be able to read other pieces from Stockholm or from the Åland Islands, in there. And I hope there will be other contributions from around the world, and bringing the Clubhouse community together, an opportunity. And again, this is something that can also be given to people outside the Clubhouse world to explain what the Clubhouse world is, which is absolutely necessary. Right.
So my next question to the group is, what can Roar contribute to the Clubhouse community and mental health in general?
The message of Fountain House, that members and staff work together, that members are a strategic part of this enterprise, so that you include in the innovation how members have been so critical, and in terms of what the Clubhouse has been able to accomplish.
I think, well, there's so many things. I mean, for example, I'm just taking out the article there about bottom line responsibility by Megan Kelly, and I'm actually using that to explain, because it's something that's quite difficult to explain in the Clubhouse, what bottom line responsibility is. So I've shown that to several people and said, I think this is really well explained. Of course, everything, everything about research and social practice, the model, it's well explained in the first edition. But I mean, I'm thinking, in the future, like there could be some excellent articles about the roles, responsibilities, staff, work order day, what's expected, and experiences. I mean, basically, the imagination is your limitation, really. I think the clubhouse has had a challenge explaining to the world outside the clubhouse what clubhouse is, and I think that Roar can be a good medium to do that to people involved in other parts of mental health who are interested in the clubhouse. Yeah.
I was just going to add to what David was saying. It can also begin to sort of introduce new ideas and really test out these ideas in a wider community, globally. And because it's member driven, it provides space where, there's sort of a liberation of thought. This works because we're all partners in making this work.
We've been talking a lot about members' contributions to these projects like Roar and colleague trainings and various stuff that Alan mentioned. So the question, I can answer it myself in my own way, but I want to know from David, but also from people who've worked with members, like what's in it for members, all this stuff? I mean, what do we get out of it besides the fact that we get to have a social experience being in the clubhouse?
The first word that comes into my head after hearing that is hope, really. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that, when I was struggling in the real world, I kind of lost hope in mankind. And then coming into the clubhouse, and I've been so fortunate in being able to meet all these wonderful people. It's given me hope in, back in people. What the clubhouse can do is it can tailor make your own way back to reality by using the resources you have, building on the resources you have, and what the clubhouse has to offer to bring you back into hopefully a good life where you can find dignity in and feelings of pride. I could go on and on, but it's a unique model in that sense, and I mean, I feel so privileged to be being able to do a lot of the things I've done in the clubhouse and achieved, and the encouragement and say the people I've met there. It's just to bring tears to my eyes.
I feel the same way. It's one of the things that inspired this journal, because I wanted to promote the clubhouse movement. I wanted to promote the clubhouse for a reason, and you went into many of the reasons why the clubhouse is so important to members' lives.
It's really a great question, I think, that you're raising, and it's an important one, I think, in this session. I've seen members change when they participate in colleague training. I think it's the experience of opening up to making sure that members have a chance to be part of this dialogue, to be part of the Roar periodical, and to actually interview them as part of it, find out how that affects their sense of recovery and identity.
I just wanted to state that Roar represents the voice of the clubhouse movement, hopefully. And I think it represents not just the voice of the members, which of course is very crucial, but it's also the voice of the staff and administrators who contribute to it. And I wanted to thank all the contributors to today's gathering, because your voices are very important voices in the movement, and it definitely gives Roar its intellectual heft. I wanted to thank all our panelists today for participating, but I also wanted to speak a little bit about our artists. As I said in my opening statement, the Roar Journal is modeled after the New Yorker magazine. As a result, we wanted to include in our publication poetry and art as well as prose, and we figured that too much academic prose would overwhelm or even bore our readers. So our talented artists, and we believe our talented poets and artists add an important dimension to Roar, and their presence in the journal is consistent with our desire to be creative and innovative. One of our artists, the person who created both our front and back covers, Susan Baus. A portion of Susan's Roar bio reads as follows. When I first joined Fountain House, I was a very isolated, sad, and depressed person. I was skeptical, but when I took the Fountain House tour, I knew definitively that this was what I needed in my life. Fountain House turned my life around. I joined the Fountain House Gallery and for the first time showed my creations to another person. The gallery director was very encouraging, and I was invited to show some of my work. Since then, I have become an artist who has had the opportunity to show and sell my art in many different venues. So thank you, Susan, and all our artists for your valuable contribution to our project. We hope you enjoyed our roundtable. And now we're gonna pass it on to Ashwin, the Chief Executive Officer of Fountain House, for a submissions call.
Hi everyone, this is Ashwin Vasan, and I'm the President and CEO of Fountain House. I want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for tuning in to our Roar launch party, celebrating our inaugural issue. I'm very grateful to Craig and the team for all the work they've put into making this happen and into lifting up the voices in our community and in diving deep into what makes our model of social practice work for people in recovery and living with mental illness. But now we look to the future, and what that means is issue number 2, the theme of which is resiliency. We're calling on our global community to reflect on these unprecedented times and to share articles, artwork, and poetry showcasing the innovations, impact, and power of our community and our movement during these unprecedented times. We'll be accepting submissions between September 1st and November 30th. You can review the submission guidelines on the screen and reach out to the team at roar@fountainhouse.org with any questions. Thank you again for participating today. We can't wait to celebrate again with you for issue number 2. Be well, be safe, and healthy, and thank you.
Well, I want to thank Ashwin Vasan, and I want all of you writers to be on the lookout for a follow-up email, which will include all the submissions guidelines for our next issue. I want to thank all of you for attending the entire Roar launch party. I want to thank Alan, Francesca, and David for their eloquent contribution to the Roar story. Thanks to Fountain House's Elliot Madison and Alan Doyle for their support and guidance when I first came to them with this idea. Thanks to IVCI for their technical support. Thanks to all Roar's recent contributors. And lastly, thanks to the Roar staff for their hard and tireless work on Roar and its projects. We hope the international mental health community will embrace Roar and Clubhouse as their go-to outlets for mental health writing and mental health treatment, respectively. And now we're excited to answer any questions you might have about our inaugural issue or about submitting for issue number 2.
Today, your first question is, can you please share with us once again the mission of the Roar Journal and how we colleagues from Clubhouse communities in over 30 countries around the world be helpful in fulfilling this mission?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you guys so much again for joining us. My name is Alex Boldessari. I'm part of the team behind Roar, and we're actually joined on our panel today by Craig Baer, Lisa Kessler, and Michael Hamlin. They're going to be answering your questions. And I think it's an excellent first question. Craig, do you want to speak a little bit of that to the original mission behind Roar?
Certainly. The original mission, of course, is to promote the Clubhouse movement. We also wanted to focus on social practice and innovation. Social practice, of course, is the spark for promoting member growth and recovery. And I wanted to mention that the Roar Journal is very important in that sense, because in terms of social practice, as many of you will learn, as you learn more and more about social practice, you're going to discover that there are 5 elements to it. I'm not going to go into all 5, but I wanted to emphasize 2. Those are engagement and social design. And engagement involves the staff and members working with the members to engage them in the work and engage them in the therapeutic value of it. And then there's social design, which is creating the environment in which members and staff can work so that members can recover. And the reason I mention all this is because this Roar Journal is taking all this to the limit, in the sense that this became a member engaging himself in recovery because of the confidence that Fountain House brought me in the work I did at Fountain House. I was able to have more confidence in my own ideas, my own dreams, and I was able to pursue this journal dream. And then, of course, the wide amount of support I had from the house made this dream a reality. So basically that's basically the mission of Roar. We want Roar to inspire people. We want our readers to read it and our writers to write for it. We want people who read the journal to spread the word about it and participate as much as they can, not only in Roar, but in the Clubhouse movement.
Absolutely, Craig. And I just think it's so powerful that you've recognized your own engagement in this process, and that even mentioned in the original question of just how big this movement is, over 30 countries, and how we really are leaning on our movement now to push it forward, and this call to action, the call for submissions. And I just know I can speak on behalf of the team that we're so looking forward to everybody's submissions and pouring through them with a fine-tooth comb.
That's right.
Could I also add to that? I'd also like to add to that and just say that I think that how colleagues in other countries could be helpful in fulfilling this mission is just to always stay open, fresh, and innovative and responsive to member needs and desires and what they want for their recovery. Pretty much that, for me, that says it in a nutshell. If you can do that for your community and your members, then you are fulfilling the mission of positive, good social practice.
And I think one other note about the mission of creating Roar, we recognize, working with colleagues in the training curriculum, that a lot of the articles were written many, many years ago. They're all still relevant and really wonderful pieces of reading, but we thought that we really needed a way to generate new articles to be utilized in our training programs and initiatives. So, when Craig came to the Center for Leadership and Education, where we host and create trainings at Fountain House, it just felt like the perfect vehicle to not only have our team and Fountain House create new material for training, but really reach out to the entire global community in order to generate those sorts of new materials.
Oh yeah, that's actually really important too. That's another way that that's a practical way that the entire community could be helpful, is really to actually commit to sending in articles, because we really want to rely on you, our international community, to really inform Roar, not only Roar, but to inform everything we do going forward in the future, our training, our movement, our model. So it's, and this is part of that. This is attached to that, and we want your knowledge to form the base of that. So please contribute.
Well said, guys.
Wonderful. We also have a comment from Mary that she loved the artwork for the journal. So for our next question, what would you like Roar to do in the future to help promote mental health and recovery?
Yeah, great question. I think it just dovetails perfectly into what everybody was just saying, how there's so much space for contribution, right? That leaning on our international community is not only leaning on the folks with lived experience, the staff that helps folks with lived experience, but it also leans into the expertise that we know is out there, right? It's bigger than ourselves. But I think, Lisa, maybe you could talk a little bit to that.
Yeah, so, we want Roar to be able to educate ourselves, but also other people outside of our movement, because we, have built this network of 300 plus clubhouses, other programs that reach out to us all the time to learn more about the model, want to, connect with Clubhouse International to create a new clubhouse. And we need to be able to explain the model in a professional and succinct way. We need to have these materials that we can utilize to share the knowledge that we have, as well as new innovations that we're creating, not just with ourselves, but really with the entire mental health community, with governments for advocacy purposes. We're hoping to get submissions not just from Clubhouse staff members and administrators, but also people outside of our community that can speak to the power of our model from a broader perspective, from an outsider perspective as well. So that's another future step that we're hoping to take. I mean, in the first issue, there are people that are not, a member or staff of a clubhouse, but who have studied the clubhouse for years, like Francesca, who we just heard a lot from, and people, we have people in other academic and government positions that we really need to lean on to help us create a vehicle for further expansion of our model. Because at the end of the day, we all just want more people living with serious mental illness to have access to a clubhouse. And so ROAR is just another way of us trying to get at that end goal. Thank you, Lisa. Our next question, how can I get on the distribution of the ROAR Journal to receive the first edition and any upcoming editions?
Yeah, that's the exact question we're wanting to hear. We'll definitely be following up with all of you to send out all the information needed with regards to future submissions, with regards to access to the actual ROAR itself. It's so funny because how we were talking about, as Ashwin had said really so poignantly before, these unprecedented times in the process of putting together ROAR, which was over 2 years coming together, originally springing from Craig's mind to actually be able to have the physical copy in our hands. I know it was just, for me, so powerful, but also it's so bittersweet because there's so many issues that we're wanting to send to everybody right now that are actually at Fountain House, not collecting dust because the box is closed, but we're ready and we're going to be sending them out to you all. And Lisa, can you speak a little bit more of the specifics that behind the submissions as well?
Sure, with the submissions, but also anyone who received the email actually should have the PDF version of the entire journal, and we will send that again also as a follow-up. So to everyone who's logged in right now, will automatically get the PDF, and then we're going to figure out another way. Maybe we could send to every clubhouse director to share with their clubhouses. This is not a secret document. We want everyone to be able to access it. Since we can't be sending the physical copies to closed clubhouses while our doors are still closed, we're taking it virtual, just like we're taking everything else in our clubhouse communities. So we'll be blasting the PDF around, and then along with that, there will also be a submission guideline Word document that describes the different types of articles that we're looking for, because there's, we're looking for some more academic style articles, we're looking for some personal experience articles, we're looking for artwork and poetry, and we'll detail all those guidelines in an email that we're going to follow up with after this webinar is done as well.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right, we have another comment from Fountain House SA. They'd like to extend their compliments to the ROAR team. You make the movement proud. You are a shining star in the world where the stigma around mental illness is still rife. So for our next question, what kind of articles are you looking for in the next edition of the ROAR Journal?
Solid question, and Lisa just touched upon it. But Michael, in thinking about the last issue and kind of the article that you compiled together with Serge, maybe you can talk a little bit about those letters from the road and what we're looking for perhaps the next iteration from Letters on the Road.
Yeah, so yeah, notes from the road. Yeah, so we're looking for, from the international community, I guess, would be looking for pieces on resiliency, as Ashwin so eloquently stated. Pieces dealing with, you know, this this current situation, but I think it's also broader than that. But certainly dealing with this resiliency from this situation that we've all been going through, how that's affected your life and times in your clubhouse community, but also resiliency in general, how we deal with adversity. I mean, there's been other issues, for example, the issue around race in the United States recently has been, you know, a big issue for a lot of people, that a lot of people, you know, have, you know, it's caused a lot of people a lot of hardship, and they've had to deal with a lot of serious issues related to that. And that's certainly an issue that can speak to resiliency for a lot of communities and a lot of people. So, you know, anything involving resiliency and your clubhouse community and your your personal journey with that too, even not just your clubhouse community, how it affects your life and your journey in your clubhouse community. So I think that's what we're looking for.
For sure, and I'll jump in with a quick plug on behalf of Craig and Judy that we're totally looking forward to all the poetry submissions too. We know you all are creative. We want to see that creativity and how you can express exactly what Michael was saying, that theme of resiliency. So we're so looking forward to just being bombarded by submissions.
And we need not leave out art and photography as well.
That's right.
So we definitely encourage artists and photographers to submit anything you think relevant to Clubhouse.
And just to touch on something that Francesca said related to sort of capturing a moment, right? Like, we are a very verbal movement. We pass down stories from, you know, John Beard, Alan Doyle to, you know, to Alex Baldessari. And another thing that Roar is really trying to do is capture those stories and those innovations in writing that we then have to look back on and to share with other people. So, you know, the reason that we came to the theme of resiliency is it really captures this moment. I mean, clubhouses around the world had a day to say, okay, we can't have members in our physical space tomorrow, and so we're going virtual. We're going to make sure that our members are safe and healthy and you know, and have the support of the clubhouse, the, you know, work order day to fill their time. You know, both members and staff and everybody in our communities just really were models in resiliency in that moment. And so that's why we think that, and, you know, all the unrest that's going on, what we're looking for in submissions is, how did the clubhouse confront these challenges and meet them to continue to provide support and meaning throughout the entirety of the last 6 months, and then obviously beyond that. Great. For our next question, I think each of you have touched on this a bit, but a little bit more description of how have you personally engaged in social practice within Fountain House?
I great question. Go ahead, Michael, for sure.
I want to jump in on this because I saw this earlier and I was thinking about this. I think I engage in social practice like on a regular basis. Like every time I interact with a new member or a member, when I want to empower a member to take on a new opportunity or take on a leadership opportunity, or I want to involve a new member in coming into like something, just taking advantage of something new, coming into the CLE for the first time, or even meeting a new member for the first time at Fountain House, in Fountain House. You can just use your own natural person, your tools from your own toolbox, but I just find it more effective in the sense that we're all in this sort of environment where we're working on a recovery, to use the tools of social practice, because we're all working on a recovery, and I think it's effective to use those tools of social practice to do that. So I use it all the time when I'm in that situation with new members, empowering new members to take on new opportunities. It's a very effective tool to use when relating to new people. So yeah.
Yeah, Michael, I think you make a great point. And I know for so many folks tuning in, probably from afar, they might be the first time they're hearing the term social practice, right? But what we hope you feel more than anything else is that when you do read through these articles or hear us speak, it's familiar, right? This is, although it might be new language or new names, it's stuff that everybody that's tuning in right now, if you're associated with Clubhouse, you're experts in. And what we're hoping that by giving these intentional terms, by giving these great insights from folks both involved with Clubhouse and outside of Clubhouse, is that we can reach the next individual that hasn't had the opportunity to walk through the doors of a Clubhouse, to feel that opportunity to matter. And so that's really what we're looking to and towards, with you all being able to contribute to our next issue as well.
Yeah, and I love the question too, because implied in it is that everyone on this panel engages in social practice, and that's something that you guys will learn while reading the journal, is that it's no differentiation between staff and members. Like, staff do social practice and members receive social practice. It's that altogether everyone in a Clubhouse community engages in these tools and elements that combine together to create a community where recovery happens. And so the terminology that we're introducing is really just trying to assign names and language to describe what we all do every day. I think the journal itself is a great example of social practice. I mean, it really was a group of people coming together, working side by side to create a meaningful product and give meaning to each of us in doing so, and hopefully spread that to our colleagues and people outside, for them to learn about what we know we do on a daily basis inside, not just Fountain House, every Clubhouse.
I wanted to add that social practice can be exhibited in many ways. I consider myself a quiet practitioner of social practice. I'm not exactly, patting people on the back and instructing them what to do in the Clubhouse. I try to use articles I write for the newspaper to inspire people to get involved in the Clubhouse. And when I'm approached socially, when people want to have a discussion with me while I'm working, I stop what I'm doing. I have a discussion with them about what they want to talk about, what their issues are. We want we want all of us to be approachable, that we're not too busy to engage members in socializing and encouraging them to stick with the Clubhouse and stay with us and continue their journey with the Clubhouse.
Great, thank you. You both touched on our next question, so I'm going to skip to, will it be English only or multiple languages for the journal?
Great question. It's something we're often faced with during training a lot too. We are certainly, we can ensure that the next issue and edition will be in English, but we would absolutely adore to have it be translated in as many languages as possible. And the best way to do that is to lean on the fluent speakers. So that is something certainly we would love to explore with our next issue, whether it's Spanish, German, whatever it may be. That would be an incredible way to make it more accessible to many more folks.
Great. And then our last question, and Lisa, you may have the main answer for this, but is there any other resources within Fountain House you can suggest for members? Example of the wanawebinar series.
So I guess I'll answer the question in terms of for members to learn more about our model. The wanawebinar series, of course, is a collaboration between Fountain House and Clubhouse International, as well as Clubhouse Europe, where we're seeking different participation from clubhouses to tell us about innovations that they're creating in their own clubhouse. So I actually see the webinar series almost like a live version of Roar. A lot of the same sort of topics are addressed in the webinar series. Alan mentioned the book that Ken Dudek, who is our former president at Fountain House, and Julie Lanoil, who is a longtime staff at Fountain House. He opened another clubhouse and worked in the model for years. They published a book, I think it was in 2011 maybe. And so if anyone wants information on how to get access to that book, we can also make that information available. We at Fountain House do various in-house training programs that we are currently updating and expanding, and hopefully be able to share with other clubhouses. Oh, we also we have the learning exchange, and actually I'm going to ask Craig and Michael to touch on learning exchange opportunities that are available not just to members of Fountain House, but other clubhouses as well.
Yeah, learning exchange opportunities. So we have this virtual platform through WebEx, through the Cisco WebEx system. And we have the standard study. We have a standard study project where we discuss standards. It's an exciting project. We've been working on a whole handbook for the standard study handbook to roll out for this discussion series project around the standards. Sort of like we envision it as like a sort of like almost as something that can be sort of an addition to like something that can sort of help inform clubhouses about the standards review process, because we know for Clubhouse International there's this standards review process, and a lot of times clubhouses get hung up on that process, and it gets kind of, people get in the weeds, and people sometimes get confused about, you know, what are the standards and what do they mean and this and that. So we came up with this whole discussion project around doing just that, around discussing this, having a meaningful, fruitful discussion around what are the standards, what do they mean. And we can have this discussion virtually over this WebEx platform. And we're really excited to roll that out with other Clubhouse communities and have a really intentional, meaningful discussion about the standards and what they mean. And it's an open discussion, and we're really excited about it. So that's the standards discussion, and we're also planning on eventually rolling one of those out around social practice and having a discussion around social practice and what is social practice and what does that mean and what does it look like. And so that'll be for the future. But that's part of the projects that we can do. Those are the sorts of projects that we can do through this whole learning exchange platform that we have.
Yeah, we've had these discussions with clubhouses all over the world, and not only are they very educational about the standards, but they also build relationships between members and staff and clubhouses all over the world. People feel much less isolated and the work they're doing because of projects like this, where we communicate with one another and we find out what our similarities, our differences, our agreements and disagreements. Is a very fascinating process.
Yeah, so well said, Craig. And to touch on what Michael said, it's just an excellent way to connect, right? To engage with other folks outside of your own community, but also to build these relationships. And those are two of the elements of social practice right there. So be it talking deeper about the standards, getting into social practice maybe for the first time, or even talking about things like supported education, or just connecting, right? Being able to develop these new friendships, these new colleagueships. The learning exchange is certainly one of the best resources available to individuals out there looking for more. And I'd be remiss not to say that the kind of director's cut edition of that roundtable discussion that you all just saw will be available on YouTube as well. So you can dig a little deeper into that discussion too.
Thank you. As most of the comments say, you were all fantastic. So if we have not answered your question, please send an email to roar@fountainhouse.org. The recording will be available next week. And as we just mentioned, the full roundtable discussion will be posted on Fountain House YouTube channel within the next 2 weeks. There will be a survey on screen once the event ends. Please take a moment to fill it out and give us your feedback. Thank you for coming to our launch party. Please be on the lookout for further information for submitting on our next issue. Have a great day, everyone.